Hi everyone, welcome back. Welcome back to the AwesomeConf again. And we are here at the second panel discussion today, which is going to be advice to your younger self. And we have three industry veterans with us here. We have Ved Antani from Twilio. Hi Ved. We have Zena Bava from HasGeek. Um, I think she'll be joining us in a bit. And we have Jaya Jha, the Bright Leader. Hi. I hope all of you are doing well. And so basically, this. Hi Zainab.
Hi, Varsha.
Welcome
Sorry,
to our
I'm having audio issues.
no issues. So as I was saying, welcome to our second panel discussion, advice to your youngest. And so basically, I'll give a little. I think wait. Yeah, you all can hear me, right? Okay.
Yeah, we can.
So basically, this discussion is going to be around the lives, that you have led till now. It's about, so this is such a fast-paced world, and we move so quickly into from one phase to the other phase, into our careers, in our relationships, in our everyday lives. And sometimes we are so engaged in moving forward that we forget to look backwards, and we forget to think about how our lives would have been if, let's say, if this mistake, I did not make this mistake, or let's say, this was the changing or the turning point of my life. So today's discussion, and this discussion is going to be about those mistakes, those learnings, those inspirations, those motivations, what brought you forward, what brought you to the place that you are here today. You are the industry veterans, and you are the leaders. And I think all of us would benefit knowing, what are those things that motivated you here, or was the career that you are in today, was even that your first choice or what? So yeah, so let's start. Um, the first topic that I would like to discuss is, what plans did you have for yourself when you started your career? So, was this always your plan on doing what you're doing today? Uh, was this always the plan? And did it go as per your plans? Were there any deviations? How was it like? So let's discuss from the past, and then we'll get to the present. Wait.
Yeah, quite frankly, there was no plan. um, uh, things actually don't always go as you plan, right? Um, if I look back, the only thing that I really wanted to do, and I still want to continue doing, is to um, uh, write a lot of code. Um, at that time, the only thing I wanted to do was to learn, and we had a fantastic session in the morning about learning. Um, But beyond that, nobody thought in terms of what I want to do in a larger frame of things. I continue to code, continue to build my skills, right? But never thought in terms of how the career would shape like, right? Um, but one thing that really helped is that I was very fortunate to work with amazing teams. Yeah, amazing problems that I got to solve. That actually shaped a lot of my thinking in terms of what I really wanted to, build in terms of my own skills and my team skills, right? But beyond, yeah, I don't think I planned when I was at least decade back.
Right. Jaya, what are your insights on this?
Yeah, kind of similar. As much as I would have liked to have plans, I was utterly confused when I started my career. The good, so confused that within, I think, 9 months of graduating, I was on my third job. Uh, but thankfully, that third job was at Google in product management. And at that point of time, at least I figured out this one
Wow.
profile or job that works for me. So since then I have done other things. It's not like that was the ultimate epiphany or ultimate realization of truth or whatever. But thankfully after that I always knew that if I don't know anything else, there is this one thing I definitely like and would pick up
Yeah.
at any point of time. Yeah, other than that, uh, things have happened and I have responded and things have worked out well, but plans, yes, don't work.
Right. So you're saying that this sort of backup that you created has become your own job, and it's like this is one thing that I really, really know how to do well, and this is something that you learned on the job.
Absolutely.
Right. Awesome. Um, Zena, we would like to hear your thoughts about this.
Yeah. Can you hear me, Varsha?
Yes, yes, I can.
Okay, great. So I think my life has really gone as I had planned it, and I think I made some really good decisions at various points in time. So I'm just going to spend a little bit of time talking about that. I run a company called Hasgeek. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and that's because I was very inspired by my dad, who used to run a business. I think the one mistake that I definitely did was to glorify that a bit too much. I never looked back and wondered why he threw temper tantrums at home, why there were these phases where he would go completely incommunicado, where my mother would say, like, what is this, for 1 week he's not talking, and we're like wondering, like, what is he mulling on, why is he not talking to us? But now I understand that because I go through this myself, because I'm trying to think about a business problem, I'm trying to think about human resource problems, etc. So I think for me, my dad was always my hero, and I think that's so stereotypical as I say this, but there's no other truth apart from that. Having looked at what he had done in life and how nothing succeeds more than success, I think for me, that was an even bigger inspiration to say, I want to be so successful that nothing succeeds than success. And I think that that's really a stage where I am at, where I feel fairly allowed, because I know that, this success is what really drives me. There are a couple of other things that I think I did very well in my life. I don't know how old Ved and Jaya are, and I don't know if we're going to reveal ourselves over here, but I'm 41. 10 years ago, I was 31. 20 years ago, I was 21. And I think the things that I did in terms of making education decisions, like deciding to go for social sciences rather than, study hard sciences, when everybody said, oh, you're such a bright student, why are you studying psychology? Why are you studying history? I think that was a very good decision to make, because I think we really underestimate how much you really require to understand people in order to kind of drive things. I think the second good decision I made was to really loiter around in my 20s to 30s, like do all kinds of things which would lead me to where I am today, right from, like, starting a company in the 20s to, like, that not working out, to then deciding that no, I need to do a job, to figuring out how to be self-disciplined so that today when remote work happens, like, you have this sort of, transition fairly seamlessly. And then I think most fundamentally, especially as a woman, I think I made a very right decision in terms of marriage, which is that my father would always tell me, like, don't get married because you're so successful that, for you, marriage is a distraction. And I think for me, unlike many other women I saw at my times, I figured that marriage is not a milestone. It's one of the good things that happens to you in your life and not necessarily the most defining factor in your life. And I think having made that decision really made my life very easy, because for me, then everything then on was, how does this sort of fit into my life in terms of, like, how my life progresses to what I had planned to be. And I think that, those are things that really are important when you think about, like, how do you plan your life. So yeah, that's where I am.
Wow. I mean, that was
Wow.
really, really inspiring. I have to say that. Wow, it was really good to know about all of this, and especially for young women out there who are aspiring to become an entrepreneur like you.
Yeah.
I think this will be something that is really, really good to know, and I think they can all connect with you if if you allow them to, and if you think that it is the right guidance, you can give them the right guidance and
Right.
the next.
Except that I'm not going to get your marriages organized, so please do this yourself.
All right. So yeah, so we have three veterans here who have like completely different experiences growing up in their respective careers, and I think that was something really inspiring to all of us. The next question basically is about what do you do in your daily life? What does your day look like? A typical day in your lives, what does it look like? I'm going to start with Jaya this time.
Okay, so typical day is really a mix of doing things that are very, very macro to doing things that are very, very micro for me. Um, right now, I'm leading product for a fintech startup. Uh, and that means in one moment I'm thinking about the entire business strategy and how the product fits in there. In another moment I'm sitting down with developers to figure out why the hell this went wrong and what is the bug here and stuff like that. So a typical day involves a lot of coordination between different people, which has gone up since the lockdown and this whole remote working thing. It was much easier in the office. A lot of problem solving time, sometimes with the team, sometimes on my own. So the day is structured around these various tasks which need, different level of concentration versus different level of interaction with people. And the biggest challenge every day is to make sure that I have time for all of this and also time for concentrated work. So that's kind of a daily challenge.
Yeah.
Right, right. And how do you equip your personal life into all of this? Like, how does that look like? Um,
uh, okay, so I am somewhat of a workaholic, so it does, like, work does tend to kind of take over my life. But then again, just like on a work day, it's a question of dividing between these different types of things you have to do. You have to kind of separate out the personal life, so making time for things you enjoy.
right,
And right now, there is no option. You have to make time for doing the dishes and
right,
cooking your food. So that
right.
sort of automatically happens. But
Everyone is a Wonder Woman and a Wonder Man this time.
right. So it's, yeah, that is something I have to consciously do, like, every day. Otherwise, I can get sucked in my work.
Right, right. Good to know, Jaya. Wait, what are your thoughts about this? How does your day look like?
Yeah, so I am in middle of starting Twilio's India Center in Bangalore, and doing that remotely, I never imagined would be so difficult, right? Starting from hiring people, interviewing, doing everything remotely is just super difficult. So right now, what's happening is that I'm spending almost entire time on calls, talking to people, trying to coordinate things here and there. There's this very funny thing. So we onboarded our first batch in India, right? And there were like 13 people joining us remotely. Now, how do you get them laptops? How do you get them to start working? So for 1 week, I just spent talking to police stations. This is the closest I've gone to the jail. I was sitting next to this jail for half an hour to get my pass to give laptop. So it's just so weird right now. But if you ask me about my day, it's all about thinking in terms of what I want to do with my teams in India. How do I partner with different teams across the world, and get the right products out of India? It's very exciting also. Um, but I think that's where the entire balance has gone completely off for me, right? And like Jaya said, right, we have lost the notion of hours. So I hope that we get out of this very soon,
Right,
um, and I think get some sort of sanity back. But
right,
that's how my day go. I mean, that's how it is.
right. So the
Yeah.
lockdown is affecting most part of our days. Let's just
Oh
say
yes,
that.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and everybody's busy, solving for all the blockers that their team has, and I think,
Yes, absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
awesome, great to know. Zina, what are your thoughts? Like, what does your day look like?
What does your day look like? Yeah, what does my day look like? So I think let's divide this into the younger self and the current self. As the younger self, I've always been a remote worker. I always enjoyed working on my own in terms of flexibility, because most of the work that I did really involved a lot of writing, a lot of planning, and I think that that is very well accomplished when you're on your own. I can completely understand, where Ved is coming from, in the sense of, like, putting a team together. I think for most of us who are working with teams, it's almost like trying to put a team together right now with the lockdown situation. So even if you had a team, we're trying to put that team together now again, because people are uncertain. They don't know what's going on with their lives. They don't know what's going to come up in future. But let's go back again to the 21-year-old self that I'm very proud of, which is that that self was not fixed to a certain number of working hours by saying that I'm going to work from whatever, like 7 to 11 or whatever. It was more in terms of, like, I'm going to be focused on getting things done, and I'm going to be focused on producing outputs. But that doesn't have to be tied down to a fixed number of hours. I think that has really helped me personally, and I wish that that would also translate to the team that I work with. Like, not to say that the team doesn't sort of understand that, but I think that yesterday we had a very interesting discussion on one of the events on HasGeek, where we were talking about, like, that there's a paradigm of working in the sort of industrial paradigm, where, like, as a factory machine worker, or as like this sort of like office bank teller, you have to move things within a certain number of hours. But given the nature of the tech industry, and also some of the work that we do, the fixed hours really don't matter. What really matters is do you get things done. It doesn't matter whether you do it within like the 9 to 5 time, or whether you do it from 5 a.m. to 9 or 5 p.m. to 9 a.m. So I think that's one of the things that I would encourage a lot of people to think about. And this is from my younger self to my now 41-year-old self. In terms of where the 41-year-old self is right now, in terms of the lockdown, I think there's this constant, sort of tension between trying to have your physical space clean because you don't want that to clutter your mind. And then you want to transpose the clutter from your mind into your physical space. I think I obsessively find myself running my robo vac in the house, like running my dishwasher. I think I'm very attached to my machines right now, unlike most people. So while I did tell Rahul that technology sucks a while ago because the earphones were not working, I'm very, very attached to the machines I have right now. I think like those could be my children, and that's the life I want to have.
Agreed. Technology has
But yeah,
such
otherwise it is like basically trying to align the team, getting people to kind of coordinate. I think that the lockdown really presents very interesting challenges for us in terms of like how do you communicate, and it's about the fact that we have so many tools at our disposal. There's WhatsApp, there's Telegram, there's Slack, there's everything. But how do you kind of switch off and take that time off, and not necessarily respond to every message that comes to you instantly? I think that's a challenge that I'm sure a lot of us are grappling with.
Yeah.
exactly. I think I can relate to it, and I think what you said in a gist was like the advice to all the young people is to not look out for working hours. In fact, put all the hard work that there is while you're young, while you can do it, and just continue doing what drives you. Zina, am
Yeah, I think that the focus on outcomes. Yeah, I think the focus on outcomes and getting things done is very important. I think that's one of the things that's also lacking in the work culture that we have in this country versus, say probably like in the US. And I'm not saying that it's a good situation in the US, because you now find very entitled young people. All the young people 20s out there, you suck. But the fact that what really matters, if you are kind of in this economy where what matters is that you really get things done and you move fast. I mean, this whole idea of being lean, I think that that's really what needs to percolate down, and that's something that you really have to learn from your younger self. And I think I was very fortunate because for me, my father was a role model, my mother was a role model, and I just could see every time that they were so resourceful, they could get things done, and nothing was stuck, because in their mindset you just had to keep moving, and I think that matters.
Right. That's a very positive thought to share with us, and I think everyone who's young and who's just starting their careers will have a lot of things to do with this advice. Like, just go for what drives you. Just have this kind of hard work, and like, don't take the entitlement for granted, even if you are entitled, right? Okay, so that brings us to our next question. This is again related to your past, to your younger self, basically. Looking back into your growing years and your career, what do you think worked out well for you? What's something that you're most proud of? And having said that, was there any the role of luck in what you are today? So these are the three questions. One being what worked out well for you. Was there any role of luck? And what's something that you're most proud of? These three questions. I think we can divide this discussion into these three questions and then talk about it. Where do you want to go first?
Yeah, what worked for me, and I think the two things that worked for me was um, I realized very early on that while everything around my work and my core competencies and my core skills are important, um, that's not what will limit me. Right? Um, so very early on, I started developing certain skills very outside from my core function. For example, I I I started, doing things which were not in my comfort zone, right? For example, pick up a topic and try to learn, even if it is not something which is not I'm doing every day in and out, right? For example, music, for example, it's not something that I do, but it gave me a sort of an ability to think beyond what I continue to do for, let's say, 12 hours a day, right? But also gave me bit of perspective about, hey, this is not just what I want to continue to do. There are a lot of things and topics beyond my 12 hours of life.
Hmm.
I think that started giving me a lot of perspective beyond just, hey, framework wars or which language is better. We all do that all the time, right? Other thing that actually helped me a lot, and I don't think luck played any role in my life at least. Then, you know, you spoke about your early days. Luck never played any big role in my life. Uh,
Right.
what helped me was, um, being grounded and good with people. That's the only skill that I use right now. Being very good with people, right? So I think those things help me a lot.
Wow. That was really good to know, especially the fact that, to all the people out there,
Yeah,
do not stick to one talent. Like, explore and find out things. Like Wade said, he did.
yeah,
Try to find out more things that you can do. Try to learn new
yeah,
things every day. Not just related to tech or your work. Like, you can learn anything
yeah,
out there. Right, Wade? That's
yeah,
the advice here. And
yeah,
for Ved, I think, as he said, that luck did not play any role. So it's all about your hard work and all about your dedication to your work and to any other thing that you do in your life.
yeah. That's
That's a
all.
good
Yeah,
advice. Yeah,
yeah.
that's a good advice. Zainab, what are your thoughts about this? What worked out well for you, and did luck play any role?
Did luck play any role?
And what is something that you're really
I think
proud of?
yeah, I think one thing that really worked out very well for me was discipline. I still don't know where I get that discipline from. Mostly, probably from my mom, because she was like so dedicated to the fact that she was doing housework. But I think discipline is one thing that really worked out for me because it has helped me to stay on track. I think a bunch of things didn't work out, but I think I quite resonate with Ved's point about this being in your comfort zone. So I'll take a little bit to just quickly explain what I mean over here, which is that back in my 20s, I was a social science researcher. I would study human beings for a living, and what human beings did and why they did what they did. And I think it was a very comfortable zone to be in because I was so good at what I was doing. And then in my 30s, when I decided that no, I mean, like, I wanted to join my co-founder and help him do Hasgeek. And I think Jaya might have, like, stuff to talk about from her past experience and from her younger self. But that was completely stepping out of my comfort zone. I dropped my PhD, which I was doing, and that kind of like led me into depression for almost 2-3 years, because I was like, oh, I was so good at what I was doing, and now suddenly I'm in this field where I'm talking to these engineers, and I don't know what they're saying, and I don't know what I am saying, and how do I deal with them, etc. So I think this switch from one comfort zone to another is very hard, but it's also very important in life, because otherwise you really don't kind of like recognize where you're coming from and where you could be going next. The I think the challenge for many of us, both the younger selves and the older selves, is the persistence to stick with something. And I think that matters a lot if you want to do mastery, which is to say that it's not enough for you to say, I'm going to step out from learning framework 1 to going to framework 2, but how much do you stick with it to kind of develop that mastery over it, because that is what actually leads you, kind of like leads you into your life further on, and also helps you to see things differently. So it's one thing to say that, yeah, I learned how to play the guitar for a bit, but now I got bored after 1 month, so I'm going to learn how to play chess. But can you stick with things despite the boredom? And I think that the one
Yeah,
thing that really helped me in my life in that sense was running. That I found a really good coach and a really good group to work with at the age of 30. And just the fact of, like, being able to run even if you're bored, when you're able to run when you're excited, you're able to run when you're depressed. I think that the physical exercise part is something that a lot of us don't take seriously as both older
Right,
selves and younger selves.
right.
I'm not going to eat into Jaya's time, but I'm going to respond to the one question that you had, which is what is the role of luck. um, I think I really made some very good decisions, and I'm going to stick with that. And I think the best decision that I made, and the thing I'm very proud of, is my marriage. And I know that sounds very stereotypical for a lot of people, and people would be surprised when they hear me speak, saying, "Oh, such an empowered woman talks about her marriage." But I think that relationships matter a lot in life. I think we take it for granted, and that if you're not in a good relationship, it really spoils everything else in your life. So choose your relationships wisely. It's not about who you just get married to. It's also about your children. It's about your friends. It's about your work. If you're not in a good relationship, get out.
Right, right. Mm. I quite agree to that. I mean, your relationships matter a lot, and not just your Not just it's not just about your spouses, it's also about your friends, it's also about the circle you sit in, and the people you talk to, right? And they kind of bring you up or bring you down, so choose your circle wisely. Also, I think it's a good point that whatever you do, have discipline in that, right, Zana? That is one of the key points that you mentioned here. That discipline is very important, no matter what you do, whether it is your work, whether it is your schedule for running, whether it's any sports that you do, or whether it's any instrument that you play. The discipline part of it is really important, and that kind of brings out the real goodness in whatever you do. Right. So Jaya, moving on to you. What worked out well for you, and did luck play any role in that? And what's something that you're really proud of?
Sure. So what worked out well and what I'm really proud of are probably the same things, and that is the ability to take unconventional decisions or choose unconventional path. And that thing is always relative. So I was born and brought up in a society which was, to be honest, very conservative. Uh, just a girl going to a hostel for pursuing her studies was almost a scandal, and I was that scandal. Or even something that will so wanting to write JE or trying to become an engineer. Again, as far as most people sitting here are concerned, are very, very conventional paths. But again, the environment in which I took that decision, it was the most unconventional. Even if women made a career, it would be in medicine. That's more suitable or whatever, right? And then going forward, I told you that at Google, I finally found this one career that I would always like and would always be comfortable in and good at, of product management. But then I left that job to become an entrepreneur. And this was at a time when entrepreneurship was not as mainstream. Today, it's really, really much more mainstream. It wasn't that at that point of time, right? And when I graduated from IIM Lucknow, I chose not to opt for placements because I wanted to join a startup, and I decided that I'll do that. And everybody was like, at least get a job. What is the harm? I'm like, not putting through this terrible process whose outcome I'm not interested in. Why should I do that? So if that's what works for you, so it's not a rebellion for the sake of rebellion. It's just choosing unconventional because that's what works for you. um, but it is surprising how often people are unable to do that, how often the peer pressure or just what the right thing to do is or what the safe thing to do is influences their decisions. So I think that is one thing that has worked out well. That is something I'm proud of. So even today, if I have to take an unconventional decision, I'll take it. Sometimes even with my own conventions. When I graduated from IT Kanpur, I said, oh, really don't like programming. I was a computer science graduate, so what will I do? Don't know, very confused. When I graduated my MBA, even though like I graduated well and as an engineer doing well in MBA, you're supposed to go for finance. I said, no, finance is not something I'm interested in. I won't do it. And then now today I'm doing fintech, which is like both, and that is also fine. I'm enjoying it and it's working well. So not be hung up about what others think, not even be hung up about what you thought in past or
Right.
what your earlier experiences will be. That works out very well, and I'm glad that I still have that flexibility where I don't get like too hung up on even what I thought in past, and am able to take those decisions. Did luck play a role? Yes. So going back to the childhood, having parents who would let me take that unconventional decision of going out for studying or choosing a career that I wanted, it was nothing but the luck. Like I could have born in another family and it wouldn't have worked out, right? And they took flack for it from the society. So yes, absolutely, very lucky. After that, I think more than luck, it is privilege. If you are a graduate from IITs and IIMs, there is a certain privilege about you. When you are in among your peers, it is easy to forget that, but I never forget that. Like all these strange, funny kind of career decisions I've been able to take is because
Right.
I have this network which will kind of always support me, and I'll always be able to get back on my feet. Like uh, most people from back home cannot imagine leaving a good job, a prestigious job,
Hmm.
and just starting when you don't know what you're doing with your life. And it is possible to do that because that safety network is there, which is because of the privilege, because of the network I'm a part of. So
Right.
yes, I do think it plays a role, and one shouldn't take it for granted because for a lot of people it's not available.
Mm. Wow, that was something very different, and I think that was really inspiring for all of us. Majorly because you spoke about two things, that don't take your privilege for granted, and that if you are able to do certain things with the support of the people around you, you are definitely lucky, because not everybody has that kind of environment or that kind of support system. to encourage you to do things, to bring you out of your shell or something, right? And I think that's a good advice to the young people to find that kind of. And I think it can mix well with what Zainab also said, that have a group around you, have people around you who support you and encourage you to do things, right? And the second thing that you spoke about is, I think, really inspiring even for me, because what you said, and your journey about your IIT and your IIM and the streams that you chose, in spite of all of that, you chose to listen to your heart and to your mind and to your passion, and you were like, no, I'm not going to stick to the streamline, and I'm not going to stick to something that is being told by the society or even by myself. I'm going to break out of that mold, and I'm going to do something that I feel is good for me, right? Not being a doctor, not being a computer geek. You wanted to do something that you wanted to follow, and I think that is something that is really inspiring to the younger people out there. That follow your choices, follow your heart, and don't be scared to take bold steps. Right, Jaya? Is
Yeah,
that the gist of what you just said?
absolutely.
Awesome,
Absolutely.
awesome. Okay. So let's come to the present right now. What about today, right? And what I'm going to ask you is, what motivates you? What motivates you to still do the things that you guys are doing, that you people are doing? What is inspiration that forces you or drives you to bring you forward and continue doing whatever you are doing today? Jay, I'm going to start again with you.
So for me, my motivations are very micro these days. I am not motivated by big goals of changing the world or uh, any of that, because I do think that sometimes you end up doing more harm than good if you're trying to change the world. But my motivations are more micro. When I'm working as a product manager, users really embracing that product, or business purpose really being fulfilled. So the sense of achievement in your work is what drives me. If I'm leading a team and the team feels motivated, and they think that I'm adding some value to their life, if they are happy that they have worked with me, I think that motivates me. So in terms of whatever I am doing, what is it that I'm able to achieve in that is ultimately my motivation. So even in personal life, like relationships or any of those things, uh, relationships are about people. So are the people around me happy? Right, if there is a relationship of any kind, you should be somebody whom people like in their life,
Hmm,
because you add something,
hmm,
right, in some way. And so whether it is personal or professional, I just take pride in and motivation from uh, that achievement, that it set out to do something, it did it well, it did it better than what anybody expected.
hmm.
And somebody is happy that it happened.
Right, right. So basically, your value addition to all the people around you, or to the things around you, or to the work around you, right? That
Yeah,
is what is the motivating factor for you. Zena,
absolutely.
what is it for you?
I think what's motivating me right now is how do you build an organization that lasts beyond me or beyond the personalities that are driving it. And I think the reason I say this is because I think I spent most of my 30s trying to, like, sort of regain that sense of self confidence and sort of to be very sure about what I was doing. And I think the 40s are a great time because then you're very sure about yourself. And I think that the time when you're so sure about yourself, you also know that you're not going to like live long enough. I mean, what you want to build is something that outlasts you. And I think that's the thing that motivates me right now is how do you build an organization? How do you build a culture that outlasts you? And that's sort of carried forward, whether you're there or you're not there.
Right. So your legacy is your motivation, right? What legacy you are leaving behind, and
Right.
what will
I
follow
mean,
your
I
footsteps.
think that if you go to Mark Manson's book about like what's that book that he wrote? Something, something, something. I can't remember the first book that Mark Manson wrote, and he talked about legacy over there. But I think I mean, legacy is not really what I'm looking at. I'm wondering, like, and I think this is a problem we have in India, which is that we don't know how to build organizations.
Mhm.
We don't know. Most of our organizations are built around our personalities. How do you build an organization? How do you build something good that lasts beyond you? It may be attributed to you, it may not be attributed to you. I think I don't care about that really at this point in time. I just want to see something that, like, lives beyond me. It doesn't require me to like oversee it on a day-to-day basis or like supervise it on a day-to-day basis. So I think that's really what's driving me right now.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Wait, what about you? What motivates you to keep on going?
Yeah, right now, my primary motivation, as I said in the beginning, is to build great teams in India, right? That's my primary motivation right now to get the center up and running. Get the right kind of you know products to be built out of India, and that is one of the most challenging thing right now.
Mm,
Because for me, it's personally, the most challenging part right now, as I said, is to make sure that you remain motivated, so
mm,
that your teams also sustain with you, right? Like then I've said
mm,
that you build an organization that is self-sustaining, that you don't have to run really literally, right, by pushing yourself. I think that's a state that really motivates me right now at this point of time. And I
right.
also get some reference to what Jaya said. It's a mix of micro and macro world right now for all of us, that
Mm,
keeps us on our toes, motivated. Yeah.
right, right. So, what is the motivation like in the lockdown? I think anybody can answer this. Like, apart from the normal day, apart from your normal lives, what is it that is going to keep you? What is it that keeps you awake in a positive way in this situation itself?
I
I
think
would
the
say ultimately.
transition, I mean, the fact of like, sorry, Jaya, you want to go first?
No, no, go ahead, go ahead.
I think for me, the motivating factor is like, what's coming next. I think for me, fortunately, I mean, we are in a business where this transition has actually been good for us. And it's about saying that, how can you do, I mean, like what can you do to make the most of it? I think that I look at this phase very positively in terms of building remote teams, in terms of like building the product, in terms of building your processes, and the fact that this lockdown is a great boon for people like us, because you find like the best talent is suddenly in the market. So you have the opportunity to work with the best people out there who would otherwise not be available. So I would say anybody who's startup founder out there, go and hire the best people right now.
Wow, that's a great advice, and I think that's a very, very positive way to look at the current situation. Jaya, you were saying something about this,
Yeah, so long term motivation for me is really ultimately trying to find happiness and contentment. And it may vary at what point of time what gives you that happiness and contentment. But ultimately, that's what I'm driving towards. And at any point of time, I want to be doing things that gives me that.
right? Right. Okay. Dave, do you have anything to add to this?
For the long term part, yes, I think Jay and I are on the same page. Be happy in long term. Raise good children. I have two kids. I try to spend a lot of time with them. In this lockdown, and I see that Zainab has such a lovely daughter right now. She's coming and
Yeah.
going. Yeah, so I think that gave us a lot of opportunity to spend time with kids. But
No,
yeah,
my daughter really enjoys these online events. I mean, like for her, like she has to customarily say hi, and
The
she
camera
customarily has to say
from
bye because she knows our parents are coming back. Sorry, wait, go on.
that no, that's so nice to see. Actually, that's a nice thing. But yeah, in lockdown, be happy. See your children grow. Children, your teams grow into great teams. That's all. I think that's all that matters.
Okay, awesome. So my next question, and I think anybody of you can pick it up. So, what is the most important thing for any of you right now? What is the most important thing that you value? It could be something about your profession. It could be personal. Anything that you value the most right now. Wait, do you
I
want
guess
to go?
yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
No, no, please. Yeah,
No, I would
no,
say that at any point of time, ultimately, the most important thing are people around you.
right,
So whether it is work, whether it is personal life, whether whatever, I mean, even in work, you're building for somebody, you are working with somebody. Even in
right,
personal life, you're living with somebody. You're like, trying to spend your life with somebody. So I guess it is the people always.
right, right. Wait.
Yeah, I think people around me, that right now is the most important thing. Relationships, how we can spend time with people around us, right? That's the most important thing right now. They actually are your support system for life,
Hmm,
right?
hmm,
In terms of professional things, I think a lot of things are getting more and more important, right? I think this lockdown, as Zainab said, right, gave us a very different perspective of what we really are, right? Can we hold conversation about anything and anything remotely? We can. I had no idea that I can actually do something like this online, right? But when I see everything around us changing so rapidly, I think the most important thing for us will be that how quickly we are able to change, right? And I personally believe that world has already changed. The world order has changed, right? The way
True.
we are going to work now will be very different from what we have known to work, right?
Absolutely.
So I think being able to change quickly with the times is a very important factor for me right now that I'm trying to build in myself, and in that the people around me are very important because they support me in doing this.
So basically, adapting to the current situations
Yes,
and then
yes, yeah,
bringing, like, developing yourself for the future, right?
yes,
Working
absolutely.
on that. Right, right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Zena, what are your thoughts about this? What is the most important thing to you right
What
now?
is the most important thing to you right now?
I think last week the most important thing for me was, am I going to find dishwasher powder to run my dishwashing machine?
Wow, that's curious.
I don't want my machines to die. So I think that for the last 1 week I was obsessing about where am I going to get dishwasher powder. Sorry, but yeah, I think I don't have anything different to say from Ved and Jaya except for my dishwashing powder.
That's really important. I can understand.
Yeah, if we are talking of lockdown specific stuff, I'm really stressed about where to find dark chocolates.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
I think
I can do some to you, Jaya. We have a lot of stock at home.
I think you
Please.
can come to the grocery list and we can probably, send it out and say these are the essentials that we need right now.
Yeah, yeah, I need that to get through this.
Sure, we'll figure it out, Jaya. Don't worry, we'll think about it. Wait, do you have any such cravings or any such, utensil washing stuff that you need right now?
I I have so much stocks on the washing stuff and chocolates that I can done to all of you, all of that. So yeah, I mean, yeah, we all are washing dishes regularly. I think that will continue. That will continue. Um, yeah.
Great. Great. Okay. So we've spoken about a little bit about your past. We've spoken about what you're doing currently. We've also spoken about your dishwashers and your chocolate cravings. Um, the next section is about the future. So what is it that, what are your long-term plans? And when I say long-term, let's talk about 10 years. Where do you see the world that you think it is, and the world, and for yourself, what are these 10-year plans? When I say the world, it could be anything like your technical world or your organization or the stuff that you're doing right now. It could be anything. So the world is just glimpse of what you're doing. So what is the world in the 10 years, and what are you in the next 10 years? So what is that long term thing that you're looking for? Jaya, do you want to go first?
I could go first because I don't have a lot to say on this. For people like us who never had plans, and to the extent there were plans, nothing worked. 10 years is a long, long time. Um, I can make speculations about where the world will be. It can be a dystopian world. It can be a utopian world. I don't know. But whatever the world it is, the only thing I can hope is that I adapt to it, not do too much damage, and if possible, do something good for the world and for myself. But yeah, other than that, it just seems very presumptuous to say
But
where it will be. I would
where do
still
you
want to
see?
be happy. I would still want people to
Okay,
be happy.
okay, that's a great thing. Yeah. So professionally, do you see anything that you could potentially think about? Here is where I want to stand in the next 10 years.
Um, I don't know. It's easier to answer that question when you're 20. You want to be at the top of the world. Um, it's more difficult to answer that question now when it has boiled down to just being content and being happy.
Okay.
So
Okay.
whatever it is, yeah,
That
don't
I
care
think
much.
is the answer, and I think it's a good advice to the younger people that don't always think about, I want to be on the top of the world, or I want to be this or that. Be realistic about your about your experiences, be realistic about where you want to be in the future, right?
So it's not
So
so much realistic. Realistic sometimes somehow says that you want to do something and you can't do it. That's why be realistic. That is not the point. Like the whole
okay,
idea is that what you want to do does not like you may not want to do something very very specific. It's a particular
right,
outcome for yourself that you
right.
want, and a lot of things could take you there. So maybe being on top of the world is fine. Although seeing the
Mm-hmm.
people who are on the top of the world right now, I'm not sure
Mm-hmm.
many people want to do that, but yeah, like the specific things don't matter so much, and also you realize that, like, uh, even if you can think of one thing you could be today which will make you very happy, 10 years down the line the world will be a different place, you will be a different person. That may not make sense any longer.
True. So what you're saying, it's such a fast pace and such a changing world that the most that you can do is be content with yourself and adapt to the surroundings, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Zena, what are your thoughts about this? What are your long-term plans? Where do you
What are
see
your
yourself
long-term
in
plans?
10
Where do you
years?
see yourself? I think I'm a little bit on the same page as Jaya. Like I said, I think I've seen the most turbulent times of my life in my 30s. I think those 10 years were so horrible. I don't want to go back to them. And like now, I'm so sure about myself. And I think there are a couple of things. One is we really don't know what is the world that's sort of coming at us, given the current situation. So I think that the one thing that I think all of us would be striving towards is to make sure that you have good relationships, you have good support systems to kind of that will help you, and that will help you to kind of like keep your head on your shoulders.
Hmm.
I think that investing on those support relationships is something that's very important. I see that that's also very important for me, because it's very important for me because this is what I would be giving to my child, in the sense that I don't know what is the world that she's going to be at. Is she going to have to go back to school? I don't even know that. And that if we can build a community around ourselves where there is something that she can plug into, I think that matters a lot. And I personally do believe that the other things that will sort of be very important in the times to come, not just for my personal self, but then that also impacts my personal self, is how much trust do you have with the people around you? What are the kind of relationships that you kind of build? Because there's going to be so much suspicion after this pandemic kind of goes down, because you don't know whether you're interacting with a person who might give you the virus. You don't know, and there's just so much of paranoia right now. So I think on a personal level, I kind of like being able to get through these times itself is important. And professionally, I think that this is probably the best time that I have seen in my life. I can't say the same thing for many people around me, because I do understand that they're all uncertain about their jobs, about their careers. And I think that if I were to kind of go back and look at what my parents did from their 40s to the 50s, I think they mostly consolidated on a lot of things that that they had built in their early lives. I think that this is a great period for consolidation. It's a great period for building things out, and it's a great period to build your confidence all over again.
Right. I think what you spoke is really, really relevant right now. And I hope everyone who's listening to us also tries to at least follow whoever they can relate to, be it Jaya, be it Zena, be it Ved. So, Ved, what are your long term plans? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? Or do you
Yeah,
also agree with Jaya and Zena that, it's about relationships and how you build yourself to be, how you adapt yourself to the world?
yeah. Long-term plans give me a lot of anxiety, so I don't plan. Right,
Hmm.
and in 1990s, people planned that by 2020 we'll have flying cars, and what we got, right? So no long-term plans. And what Jaya said about winning the world and being top of the world. My last hope was Elon Musk. He went insane last night, so no plans. But
Right,
I think what Zainab says makes lots of sense in terms of a lot of things will change.
right,
Right from your education, our habits, our discipline around how we interact with people will change. How we work will change, right? So I think fundamentally everything that we have known to do well will go through a drastic change.
right.
I think we'll also have a lot of opportunities in making sure that what we did not do well in last couple of decades we'll be able to do well. For example, we are breathing cleanest air in last
Yeah,
30 years, right?
agreed. Yes,
Now, this gives an opportunity to think about, whether we can build organizations or teams or, a world that is green. So, it's not that everything is in gloom right now. I think there is a lot that can be built out of, this kind of situation.
Hmm.
Um, but in terms of long-term plans, I think it just gives me anxiety. So I stay away from planning for too long.
Yeah,
But
I
I'm
can relate to
with
all of you on
Zainab
that.
on this. Yeah.
Right, right. So I think, Wade, the most important thing that you said right now is, not all is lost, and there is still hope,
Yeah.
and we will learn from our mistakes, right? And maybe the world will be a better place to live in the
Yeah. I
next 10
hope so.
years.
Yeah. I hope that.
Awesome. Um, Okay, I think we are around the end of our panel discussion, and I think we've all had a lot to learn. In fact, I've had a lot to learn, so thank you, all of you. My last question or my last discussion would be around um, what is it that what is like the mistakes of your past, so what is it that you think that you could have done better, so that you are in this place right now, you wouldn't have to fight that hard, if there is any mistake or if there is any learning looking back at things, what is the advice to all these young people out there? What is the one mistake that you would ask them not to do, or by your own experiences, what is that? Anyone can go first.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
think I can take a stab at that. So I
yeah.
think there are two R's in my life which I think that are the biggest mistakes. One is rant, so please don't rant, and the second is react. Try not to react. I think these are two mistakes that I often make, and I think that both of them kind of lead you to get stuck in your situation psychologically, mentally. It's important to recognize when you're doing it, and to just pull yourself out of it. If pulling yourself out of it means like shutting yourself in a room for a few days, just do that. Don't reply to every WhatsApp message. Don't reply to every email. Like, don't react. Just like, sort of take that time off, because at times what people say, they don't really mean that. At times what words are, they really are not. So it's important to kind of take some time to introspect. I think the other thing, mistake that I often make, and I think that that's sort of really kind of given me a drumming in my life, is overthinking into things. It's good to introspect, but it's also good to kind of remove yourself and say that no, you need to kind of like, either get into the situation and act, which is contrary to the advice of saying don't react. But I think a bunch of these things, which is, if you're ranting, get out of the situation, step back, pull yourself out. If you're reacting, it's important to take a step back. I think Vipassana has really helped me a lot in my life to think about it. It's a very objective way of thinking about how not to react. And finally, I mean, overthinking. It's sometimes it's important to be in the present. It's important to be spontaneous.
Hmm, hmm, hmm. Right. So rant, react, and overthinking. These are the three killers, right? Killers of your motivation or whatever, or the three mistakes that people should never do. Awesome. Yeah. What is it for you? What do you think? What advice can you give to people out there to learn from your mistakes?
Sure. So thankfully, there hasn't been anything disastrous coming out of it. But uh, in my younger days, I think I used to expect too much rationality from the world and too much fairness, and uh, that led to, let's say, some heartburns, like situations I should have anticipated will go certain way. I got really hurt from them, or they're just generally very angry and stuff like that. So whether it is your job, whether even personal life or whatever, the world is not rational. People are not fair. The world doesn't owe you any justice, and you just kind of have to deal with it yourself, or the support system around you. That is something it took me some time to learn. If I had learned them earlier, I would have navigated my professional life better in my early days. But yeah, thankfully nothing disastrous, but a good learning.
Wow. That's a truth bomb. Don't expect too much from the world, and it's not going to be fair. So just get used to it. Wait, what about you? What are your mistakes? What do you think people can learn
Yeah.
from their past?
Yeah, the biggest mistake that I think when I look back is, focusing on one thing a lot, right? Um, and when things don't work out, you actually, as Zainab said, you react by saying that, everything just now is ruined in your life. You're not going to get back to your feedback again. But one thing that life teaches you, that life is a surprising way of getting back on track, right? So wasting time in just thinking about what could have been, what could have done better, I think that's just a waste of time. I think life gets back to their feet, you know. Um, so there is no, and I think I used to focus on one thing a lot. Hey, if I'm doing this, this is my work. Don't look around, right? But luckily, people that told me, there are life beyond your regular 9 to 5 sort of a thing. Look around, and I think that um, I think I spent a lot of years just focusing on one thing. That's
Mm,
your work, right? How to be better at that part,
mm,
and living in regrets. That, hey, you know
mm,
what?
mm,
I could have done this better.
mm,
Now I'm not going to be successful or happy.
mm.
But luckily, I didn't remain in that zone for very long.
Right.
I was lucky to have friends who told me to, not be in that zone. And but I think I could have done that part better and
Yeah.
react as Zainab
Enough.
said,
Yeah.
don't just react to
Yeah.
things,
Yeah.
sleep over them.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it relates to what Zanab said. It's not about overthinking all the time. So don't overthink and don't think that, what if I don't live a life of regret, right? Because the life can always get back to its own feet, and
Yeah,
whatever happens has to happen. So don't think too much about what is happening and where you could be or where you were. Just keep on going, right? That's one thing that you
yeah,
said. And another
yes,
point was that focus on multiple learnings, not just one. It's not just about your 9 to 5 job or whatever time
yeah,
job. It is also about, the world is your oyster. Go out and explore more things. Go out and find your passion. Go out, do things more. Communicate more. Right. So that's a great discussion. I think the last question was something that really gave us an insight about all of you and how you pick yourself up after a heavy storm. And I think all of the audiences would be able to relate to it quite well, and probably learn from your mistakes, or I'm not going to say it mistakes. I'm going to say that learn from the experiences that you've had. So thank you, all of you. I think we are at the end of this panel discussion, and I hope all our audiences have enjoyed this as much as I have. And this has been an awesome panel discussion of the Awesome Conf. And thank you, all of you. Okay, so let's start with the
Okay,
question.
so let's start the question.
I'm asking her to ask her to come back.
I mean, you know,
Okay, at least let's start with a few questions, and Dea can probably join in. There's one question that Ankit Mani has asked: is remote here to stay? The remote working. Any of you can take up that question,
Yeah,
Zena.
yeah, I think remote is here to stay. I think we've been having a bunch of conversations around uh, the sudden, the lockdown sort of imposing remote on you versus, having been remote much before this pandemic situation. I definitely think remote is here to stay. And I think the reason for that is one, we do not really see things changing anywhere until September. The other being is that there's going to be so much of fear and paranoia, and there is genuinely a challenge with the large office structure because with the centrally air conditioned systems, we've known that the virus has sort of been spreading quite a bit. So we have a genuine situation in the sense of not being able to get back to normalcy in the sense of what things were previously. So we really have to get ready to kind of go remote. A few things that have come up in the discussions that we've had on remote work on HasGeek. I think I'll just quickly recap three very important points that I've learned from. One, create a setup for yourself in terms of remote, in the sense that if you're in your home, have a workstation that helps you ergonomically, which means that with good posture. Do not work from your bed or your couch, because that kind of leads you to slouch and also gives you a lot of muscle problems. The other being is that do not overcommit yourself in the sense of trying to jump into everything. And finally, figure the balance in the sense of being able to kind of keep a sort of a discipline for yourself. And by discipline doesn't mean like a regular routine, but the one thing that really helps overall, and we've discovered this time again in the last 2 months, is have a nap in the afternoon. That really refreshes you, it really helps you to think. And taking a nap in the afternoon, it does not mean you're slacking from your work, you're actually being far more productive. So I think that's really where we are.
Wow. Okay. Wait, do you have anything to add to what
No,
Zainab
I
said?
think all are very important points. I think remote will stay. I think
Mm-hmm.
remote will stay. It will also shape the way we work.
Mm-hmm.
I completely agree to Zainab saying that do not, overwork, because when you are working remote, especially across time zones,
Mm-hmm.
people tend to actually work, since very early morning to very late night, just to make sure that your hours are aligned, right? And that is just a big mistake, right? Take care of your posture, your neck, you don't work on the bed right now, because those long hours can actually kill your entire body. But yeah, I think and yeah, I think remote is going to stay. It will depend on how we take care of ourselves during this remote working phase. That will actually help us go a long way.
Absolutely. Okay. Um, do we have any other questions? I just saw it on my screen. Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good question. Um, how businesses will change post pandemic? What will be the new focus area for business? I think that's a good question. And Zainab, I think you do have insights about this.
So we are in the business of helping people talk to each other. It has been happening through events. The physical events industry, to be very honest, is not coming back this year. If it comes back next year, it's going to be very slow and gradual because there's still going to be fear about large gatherings. So I think in terms of businesses, I mean, at least I can talk about the media and the sort of events business we're in. I think it's important to help people make connections, and this is a really good time to kind of think about how you bring people together like you used to bring them in a physical setting. How do you? I know that you can't bring the richness of physical interactions back, but this is a great time to think creatively in terms of internet products, in terms of ideas, in terms of processes, and how you can help people meet each other, discover each other, talk to each other. I think it's a good time. We do know that O'Reilly, for example, has closed down their events business. They're focusing entirely on online education. That's
Right.
one area that's definitely going to pick up. But it's also a good time to think about like how do you get people together? How do you give them a place to belong to? I
Right.
think this is really how I see
Yeah.
the business changing.
Right. And what do you think are the challenges in doing that? All this remote setup. What do you think are the challenges about this?
I mean, I think a lot is also dependent on the technologies that enable you to meet. So I think like a recent challenge that we are all finding, for example, is that since the sort of the Zoom investigations leaked out in the sense of the security of your chats, I mean that there's no end-to-end encryption with Zoom. The one challenge we now see, for example, is a lot of people in their social networks saying no, you should not join Zoom meetings. And
Mm-hmm.
so this opens up the space for other products, but it also means that if your business is dependent on Zoom, you're also going to have the challenge of how do you kind of ensure that your customers have trust. We're really seeing things changing pretty fast. Like I find, for example, that things that we did a week ago, that's not the same system you can continue in the next week because we're still trying to find those bearings. But this is a really good time for anybody who wants to experiment and to kind of like innovate on things that just allow people to communicate with each other.
Mm-hmm. Right. Dave, do you have anything to say about this question? Like, how do you
Yeah.
think the
So
business
absolutely. So at Twilio, we are seeing an incredible growth in the usage of video, voice,
will?
because everybody is moving towards the digital form to reach out to the customers. The entire the way people do education online has completely moved to video, right? I
Right.
think traditional businesses will now have to, move to some of the modern way of doing things. For example, travel. How do you travel, right? I mean, that that's an industry that will have a huge impact. But at the same time, as there will be so many new things that will also start coming in. I mean, nobody thought about house party, right? I mean, what is a product like house party? Why would you do a house party? But if you look at the growth of that product, right, and the way they have shaped up, it's just we have no idea it'll happen. Right? I think a lot of things in the way people interact with each other has to be now very different
Right.
and differently crafted altogether, right? And I
Right.
think that's the most important change that at least I can see in terms of businesses, right?
Mm.
But apart from that, a lot of traditional businesses will have a lot of impact.
Mm. So you're saying people who innovate and the businesses who innovate will be the survivors, and
Yeah,
traditional businesses might get impacted because of all of this.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Um, how businesses will change post pandemic? What will be the new focus area for business? I think that's a good question, and Zainab, I think you do have insights about this.
So we are in the business of helping people talk to each other. It has been happening through events. The physical events industry, to be very honest, is not coming back this year. If it comes back next year, it's going to be very slow and gradual because there's still going to be fear about large gatherings. So I think in terms of businesses, I mean, at least I can talk about the media and the sort of events business we're in. I think it's important to help people make connections, and this is a really good time to kind of think about how you bring people together like you used to bring them in a physical setting. How do you? I know that you can't bring the richness of physical interactions back, but this is a great time to think creatively in terms of internet products, in terms of ideas, in terms of processes, and how you can help people meet each other, discover each other, talk to each other. I think it's a good time. We do know that O'Reilly, for example, has closed down their events business. They're focusing entirely on online education. That's
Right.
one area that's definitely going to pick up. But it's also a good time to think about like how do you get people together? How do you give them a place to belong to? I
Right.
think this is really how I see
Yeah.
the business changing.
Right. And what do you think are the challenges in doing that? All this remote setup. What do you think are the challenges about this?
I mean, I think a lot is also dependent on the technologies that enable you to meet. So I think like a recent challenge that we are all finding, for example, is that since the sort of the Zoom investigations leaked out in the sense of the security of your chats, I mean that there's no end-to-end encryption with Zoom. The one challenge we now see, for example, is a lot of people in their social networks saying no, you should not join Zoom meetings. And
Mm-hmm.
so this opens up the space for other products, but it also means that if your business is dependent on Zoom, you're also going to have the challenge of how do you kind of ensure that your customers have trust. We're really seeing things changing pretty fast. Like I find, for example, that things that we did a week ago, that's not the same system you can continue in the next week because we're still trying to find those bearings. But this is a really good time for anybody who wants to experiment and to kind of like innovate on things that just allow people to communicate with each other.
Mm-hmm. Right. Dave, do you have anything to say about this question? Like, how do you
Yeah.
think the
So
businesses
absolutely. So at Twilio, we are seeing an incredible growth in the usage of video, voice,
will?
because everybody is moving towards the digital form to reach out to the customers. The entire the way people do education online has completely moved to video, right? I
Right.
think traditional businesses will now have to, move to some of the modern way of doing things. For example, travel. How do you travel, right? I mean, that that's an industry that will have a huge impact. But at the same time, as there will be so many new things that will also start coming in. I mean, nobody thought about house party, right? I mean, what is a product like house party? Why would you do a house party? But if you look at um, the growth of that product, right, and the way they have shaped up, it's just we have no idea it'll happen. Right? I think a lot of things in the way people interact with each other has to be now very different
Right.
and differently crafted altogether, right? And I
Right.
think that's the most important change that at least I can see in terms of businesses, right?
Mm.
But apart from that, a lot of traditional businesses will have a lot of impact.
Mm. So you're saying
Yeah,
people who innovate and the businesses who innovate will be the survivors, and
yeah,
traditional businesses might get impacted because of all of this.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Right. Do we have any other questions? I don't think so. So I think, yeah, we are done with the panel discussion and we are done with the questions. And it was really nice interacting with all of you. And I'm so sorry that Jaya left before we got to the question section. So thank you for your time and thank you for answering all the questions that our audiences had. We'll see you around next time.
All right. Bye bye.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.